Thanks for tuning in to EDC Journeys. This is my overview of the Kershaw NORAD. Hope you enjoy. What's going on, EDC people, and what's our journey today? I'm here to talk about this guy, the Kershaw NORAD. It's a pretty cool looking design from the 2020 lineup from Kershaw. I know I'm late to the game on it, but this is another one of the knives that LTK let me take a look at. And if you don't know who he is, I would be surprised, but check out his channel, Love Them Knives. But if you're watching this, I would be shocked if you didn't know who he was. So the Kershaw NORAD comes up around $69, $70. It is a China, made in one of their Chinese plants, just so you know. It's actually pretty cool. It's a frame lock. Well, we'll get to that. When I looked it up, it did say, and I'm quoting this from a website, that it was inspired by the lines of aerospace design, and I can kind of see that, and we'll get into that more when I do more close-ups and show you the knife up close. That having been said, I did some of the measurements already. The blade length is 3.25 or 3¼ inches long. The handle is 4½ inches long, for a total of about 7.8 inches. Now, I have not done the weight. I always save that for the video. In ounces, it's 5.2 ounces, so it's not a light carry. It's a stainless steel body, so 5.2 and 148 grams. Alright, let's take a look at the blade. Well, boy, this is hard because I want to go out of order on this so bad. I have to take a look at some of the design first, which I usually don't do. I like to start with the blade, but we'll get there pretty quick shortly. While we're here, take a look at the thumb, or the flipper tab. It's very low profile. Now remember, this is a liner lock, so you have to be careful. Any pressure on the liner lock makes it very difficult to deploy with the thumb, or the what's it called here? I always do this. I always call it a thumb stud, flipper tab. So, once you have it for a while, you learn it pretty quickly. It's very easy and it's nice to deploy. Now, take a look at the blade. It is D2 tool steel, okay, which at $69, that's kind of expected. It's got a satin finish with a machine grind. It's got this, I guess, fuller here with what they call, what is it? I wrote it down here in my notes. PVD coating. That's what they call it. The black coating in here is what Kershaw calls PVD coating. Now, one of the nice things about it is the blade is not that color, because a lot of times especially with Kershaw, that PVD coating wears, and it's deep down inside. Well, let's look at this side. Look at D2 China. That's probably the model number. It is one of the Kai group's knives. If you don't know Kai, they own let's see, Shun Cutlery. I want to say obviously Kershaw and ZT, and I think a couple more, but I'm not too sure. Anyways, you see, I just put my hand on the frame lock and tried to deploy it, and it was difficult. Okay, but before I keep jumping around because I'm excited about this knife. It's really kind of cool. Take a look at the pivot covers. They're pretty neat in design. I watched JT's Knife Life, and JT mentioned it kind of reminded him of a Star Wars theme, and now I can't get the Imperial symbol out of my head. It totally does look like the Imperial emblem from Star Wars. Now, looking at the clipper tab, right? There it is. Where'd it go? They designed it in a way that it was such low profile that it doesn't show up on the bottom here. So you have what feels like full contact to, you're not going to see this, but to the blade, which is pretty cool. I like that. As far as the blade is concerned, you do have a sharpening choil. It's not a finger choil. I mean, I suppose you could go up here if you really were doing some fine work, but it's not meant for that. You have the nice sharpening choil. Let's take a look at the depth on that choil. I'm going way out of order here on my notes, but that's okay. We like to do things randomly here. So the choil, why does my caliper do this? It like sticks and it's not locked. Come on. Come on now. Okay, I'm going to pause the video and unstick this. Okay, I fought with it long enough and it's back to normal. It's zeroed out in millimeters. Let me try to grab that choil at the thickest point, if I can stop shaking. Looks like 3.2 millimeters, which is a little bit thinner actually than I expected. Let me try one more time, just make sure, because I was thinking it was going to be more like 4. Yeah, 3.29. Cool. So it does have a pretty fast plunge. I'm really not good at behind the edge measurements. I'll give it a shot here. .72 of millimeters. I mean, I don't know if that does anything for anyone. All right, stock thickness while we have the calipers out. 3 millimeters, solid 3 millimeters. Okay. So, okay, let's talk more about that blade shape. You know, it's interesting. On the website that I was looking at, and I want to say it was Smoky Mountain Knife Works, or maybe it was White Mountain Knives. In the specifications, they say it's a drop point. That's the last thing I thought. I would have thought, not a drop point. I'm sorry. They say it was a clip point. That's the last thing I would have expected them to say about this. I certainly could see a drop point, but I also, it kind of, in a way, if you can imagine it, you try to ignore that fuller. It's almost like a spear blade, right? It seems like it's pretty equal on both sides and meets in the middle at the point. And it almost takes on that same design. I'm sure Spyderco has a patent on the name, but it has that leaf shape, kind of like a Mannix. In fact, let me grab one to compare it to. Okay, seeing as how we have the Star Wars theme in mind, I grabbed the Shadowborn Hank Star Wars Hank for a background while we do the comparisons. Okay, so here is my Mannix 2, which you see the blade. I'm going to put it kind of pivot to pivot and take a look at the blade shape. Yes, I realize this is more downward angled, but doesn't that kind of seem similar? Now, for simple, okay. Here's what I would consider a clip point. I'm not really saying this has anything to do with this knife, but I'm just saying, when you say clip point, I kind of think of this. Maybe they're somehow considering the fuller in there, and so that's, I don't know. But to me, I just have a hard time seeing that as a clip point. I'm not sure why I grabbed this, but I want to show it off because I don't get a chance to very often. Here's another kind of clip point-ish design. Has nothing to do with the actual knife, but I will note that take a look at real nice carbon fiber. Let me close this blade before it kills me. That's really good, nice carbon fiber. Yep, that I just dropped. And Now take a look at the carbon fiber found on the Kershaw NORAD. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Quality control wasn't so great. First of all, we know that it was just the shiny kind of faux carbon fiber anyways, which is fine. I at $69 you don't really expect super high-end carbon fiber, but take a look at the quality of the inlays. It's like it's like the glue that they used to put them in is coming out from all around it. So look at that. I mean, that just, to me, even out of a Chinese factory, that shouldn't be like that. It should be that someone should really wipe that off a lot before it's sent out to a customer. And and like other folks have said, I do appreciate that they continued to the backside with the carbon fiber to continue the pattern. I do like that. I do, a couple more things I like about it. From a distance, I like the carbon fiber inlays. I like that you can see the back spacer, which kind of is black and it kind of matches. I think that's cool that it pops up like that. Same with the back side. The deep carry pocket clip with the flat screws, that's awesome. Like I said, the pivot covers pivots are nice and cool design. It is ambidextrous tip up carry, so you could flip it to the left hand side. The nice thing about this fuller, of course, you can spidey flick it, and it is extremely easy to spidey flick. It does sometimes have trouble getting over the detent on the coming down. On the come down, is that the right term? I don't know. But what else do I like about it? I like the flow of it. I think that they actually really kind of thought about this design, and knowing now that they were having like an aerospace theme in mind, and look, they even used black hardware instead of silver. I appreciate those details. I really do. The black dots around the pivot match the carbon fiber, match the hardware, match the back spacer. It continues to the back, where they still continue to use the black hardware even on the pocket clip. Now, I'm looking at that pocket clip and I'm wondering, just because of the hue of it, if it's stainless steel or not. And yes, it is. Okay. I thought maybe for a second it was titanium, but no. This is a full stainless steel knife. Yeah, I for a Kershaw, I really do like it. There's a lot of Kershaws that you see, when you go to the store, Walmart or whatever, hanging on pegs that aren't, they are what they are. And I do want to come back to that point. So someone remind me before I end this video to come back to that. Let's get rid of this now so that you can see better. But this knife, it has a really nice design flow to it. I really like the fuller. I don't see it getting in the way of cuts. Yes, it is deep and it does have a sharp spot here, but that makes it easier for you to do the spidey flick. I mean, and it is really easy. It's on KVT ball bearings, if I haven't mentioned that yet. See, I still catch myself putting my fingers on the back spacer. I mean, not on the back spacer, the frame lock, and having trouble with the flipper tab. But the fact that it doesn't show up at the bottom, I think, is one of the coolest aspects about this knife. It's, because usually you have a big flipper tab hanging out and you can't make contact. They have designed this in a way that it basically disappears. It's almost like it's not a flipper knife once you deploy. Okay. Since I'm done kind of nerding out about that, what else were we doing? Oh, comparisons. Well, here's an Elementum. I mean, a lot of people, it's not, it's not similar in size whatsoever, but a lot of people have one. So you can see about the difference. Here's the wee banter. Compare the spear point like I was talking about. Possibly is that a spear point blade? I don't know. It's just not a clip point. Yeah, that's it we'll wrap that up for comparisons, I think. But of the knives I have, I would say mostly closest match is the Mannix. The Mannix 2. It's very different in many ways, but I'm talking about the size of the blade, the shape of the blade, the handle kind of arc and shape, and size. Let's take a look at the depths or measurements. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. So in millimeters, first of all, we'll do the big one. .32 millimeters from the highest point to the apex. 32 millimeters is the entire blade. Now, if you go from the fuller to the apex, you're looking at about 18.5 millimeters. Okay? So the reason why that's important or interesting to look at is this is nearly a full flat grind, with the exception of that fuller. If you ignore that fuller, it is a full flat grind. So the height of it, having that much height like a Mannix, gives you a lot of sliceability. I'm not sure if that's a word either, but it should be. Okay, yeah, it is D2 tool steel, so you got to take care of it. No big deal. Kershaw is not I'm sure that they've dealt with D2 quite a bit, so I'm sure that the quality of it is nothing to balk at. Well, let's talk about the ergos. Well, first of all, in pocket, it does slide right into the pocket, at least my pockets, pretty easily. You have a lot of space. It does have that kind of like ramp up, and some people love it, some people hate it. As far as when it's deployed, do I feel it? No, not at all. And what I mean by ramp up is, like, for example, well, this isn't a great example, but do I have a spider code nearby? No, I don't. Never do. Okay. Some people have a problem. It's a pretty bad. See how this clip ends coming kind of up, as opposed to spooning out. There are people who dislike that. It's kind of like the Civivi. No, not that one. Okay. Well, anyways, in my hand, I don't feel the pocket clip, or I barely do, anyways. And where I do is actually back here. You have jimping on the top here. Your finger's going to go right about here because there's no choil. It's a fairly neutral handle. They do have this little bump out to kind of fill your palm up. I kind of like that. In a way, I almost wish it was a little longer. I know that sounds strange, but, well, I'm not sure. I wish that there was a finger choil somewhere that I could creep up a little further, because I do feel a little bit far away from the blade, and I think it would give people more options with their hand placement, because right now, you just don't have much. And with that swelling, you have basically this, and there is a little indent there. I'll try to show you. I'm not sure how to do this. It kind of, I'm trying to say it contours. First of all, the contouring is nice and comfortable. I like that, but it makes it feel like you should have your first finger here, meaning that your other fingers go here, and I have a smaller sized hand. I wear probably a medium glove. I don't know if that makes any difference to anyone, but it's not uncomfortable. I never took this measurement either. And I do it in inches on the handle just because I'm weird. 0.42, 0.429, so let's say 0.43. So it is a thin knife. The average EDC carry is usually somewhere around 0.50. This is 0.42. So it's definitely a thinner knife. Let's check out the action a little bit. Remember, it's on KVT bearings. It does fly right out once you learn where to place your fingers. And I've been looking at so many different knives lately that it's been hard for me not to put my fingers on the lock bar. But if you don't, it pops right out, no problem. Now, for people who have an issue with that, who can't get past having their fingers on that bar, the Spidey flick or using that fuller is extremely easy. I mean, it's almost easier than a spider hole. One thing I dislike about it is, and it's a common complaint, but where the detent ball is. You see the detent ball there on top of the. Oh, where's my handy dandy thingy? Okay. You see the detent ball right there, right? Zoom in because I'm highly technical like this now. Okay. You see the detent ball. It's at a point where when you release it doesn't have I'm assuming, I haven't disassembled it, and I'm not going to because this is not mine. Maybe I'll take a look at Love Them Knives and review of it and see if he disassembled it and if it has a detent ramp or what. But it hits a certain point right here where it feels like it's hitting the detent ball, or at least where the ramp would start if there was a ramp, or where the track is that it would go on. You can hear it, right? That's hitting that. So and take a look at how far down it is in comparison to in its locked position. So my point is, you almost have to kind of nudge it along, and then you can drop it. I've gotten used to it. No big deal. And I'm sure, anyone who buys it and actually has it and uses it for more than, a couple of weeks, I'm sure you'll be more used to it. Let's see here. What else did I want to talk about? Yeah, so pretty much, we talked about the ergos. They're okay. I feel like my hand is kind of pushed back too much. I wish I could creep up. I wish there was some kind of choil. And I feel like this knife could have handled a finger choil somehow. But I do appreciate the thumb or the flipper tab disappearing very, very much. I think that's really cool, and it's one of the main attractions for me to why I would consider buying this knife. I also like the aesthetics of it. I think that they nailed the aerospace kind of theme. The backspacer plays along just fine, just perfectly with it. The carbon fiber, yeah, it's not high quality carbon fiber, but as I said, it shouldn't have left the factory with such issues like that. They should have resolved that. That's a lot. But that having been said, and considering the price point, I think it looks cool. I would prefer to keep this carbon fiber than to remove it and just have lines. I think that would totally destroy the aesthetics of it, really. I do appreciate that they went on both sides with the carbon fiber. I love that the fact that the backspacer peaks up on all this little kind of like clamshell jimping kind of idea, because it ties everything in together and it pulls you around to the back even. The pivot is awesome looking. Again, I can't get over that flipper tab disappearing. I really like that. This is a knife that I could see myself adding to my collection. It's on bearings. It's ambidextrous. They probably could have put some kind of black insert here to cover up the clip, the clip swap thing, whatever you want to call this, the where you put the clip for the left-handed people. I think that having something black there will not only continue to tie into the aesthetics, it would be better than just this like blah. However, I do appreciate the fact that the cutout is the same as the cutout for this, and it matches here and here. They really did a good job. And then looking at the back, that's pretty cool, just in general, how it looks. Yeah, I'm fairly impressed, for a Chinese factory Kershaw. Now, $68, do I think that that's a good price for it? I don't think it's unreasonable. I think that Kershaw could step up their quality control, as I said. If this wasn't so bad, I don't see them fixing the detent issue at this point, because it's pretty, it's kind of one of those knives that it's not gonna have upgrades, I don't believe. But if they could fix that detent so that it would go over it a little easier, that would be awesome. But I don't see that happening. Now, you could theoretically take the blade out and put your own detent ramp in. That's an option, if you're handy like that. But I would advise you not to try doing that for the first time on a knife that you spend good money on. And it usually requires a Dremel or at least a hand, diamond file, and some patience. I like the deep carry pocket clip, and I feel like they could have made this lock bar a little more comfortable to push over somehow. It seems a little sharp. It's just a kind of a really thin edge of stainless steel that you're pushing. It's not terrible. I've felt much worse, but you can see. Take a look at my finger. I'll push it over. I'll do it. See, there's the detent. I'll do it a few times. Which lets you hear the action a little bit, right? Because a lot of people love the audible factor in knives, so take a listen while I'm not talking. Anyways, I mean, yeah, I guess you can't really see much on my thumb, but I can definitely feel where it's wearing. The aerospace design came out perfectly. Good flow back to the front. Like the blade shape. Love the fuller. I appreciate that it's machine satin and not black all over the blade. It is D2, but that's what do you expect in a Chinese fairly budget priced knife. And then really the ergos, they aren't bad, but they're not great in my opinion. I feel this part on my pinky area. It's just my particular hand size doesn't work too great with it. That's all. And maybe that's something that is personal to me, and I shouldn't knock it for that, because maybe your hand fits perfectly. So take that for what it is. That's my overview of the Kershaw NORAD. It is like 5 ounces, like we said, so it's all there. I don't mind the weight. It's surprising at first because you don't expect it to be so heavy, especially after you handled so many titanium knives. And it is a nice frame lock, deep carry. I think they did a pretty good job. I think it's more quality control is the biggest thing, and then in the design factor is the detent ball, and for me, possibly a finger choil up front or some way of making this not so tight where your fingers go. Okay, guys. Thanks for watching EDC Journeys. Hope you enjoyed the overview of the Kershaw NORAD. If you did, please hit the thumbs up button and consider subscribing. Have a great day.